Hi,
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Hi, my name is Guilaine Menefee, and I am the producer and host for the BBA show. And today, our theme is called Healing Truth. Welcome again to the Black Business Alliance show, where we feature the hidden gems of small businesses in Connecticut. I'm your producer and host, and our gem with us today is a female doctor who is a licensed relational therapist for the individual, couples, and families at her own private practice called Harmony Cove Therapy. As an LMFT, she can provide therapy for a myriad of needs: eating disorders, co-parenting, divorce, financial constraints, sex and intimacy, and other life events, including for individuals or family situations. Her passion for therapy comes from a very personal place of experiencing her own trauma, but seeking her own sense of balance, wanting that for all her clients. Our theme today, again, Healing Truth, is about her and this journey, and we're honored to have a business owner that services her clients with exactly that. Welcome, Dr. Danielle Moye. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
Good, and thank you for joining us today. So talk to folks a little bit about exactly what you do. You are a PhD, you have another title, LMFT, so a lot of stuff around therapy. If you could break that down for us.
So basically what an LMFT does, or a marriage and family therapist does, is they help individuals, couples, and families think in a different way. A lot of times they come to us with their constraints or personal, adversities, and they haven't found a way out of those situations. And so we just offer them a conversation around something different or shifting something in their routine and see what, and we're curious about what might happen from that.
Sure. So LMFT, licensed marriage family therapist. Is this just for married folks, or who can get service with you?
So usually the misconception is that LMFTs only see married people, families, and some individuals. But the truth is we can see everyone that a psychologist can see, a social worker can see, or a licensed mental health counselor. The only thing is we have a different lens through the way that we conduct therapy. Okay. So anyone can access us, whether that's through word of mouth, from a doctor's office, online. A lot of us are becoming familiar with the online community, and so just putting ourselves on blogs and entering conversations that bring healing to others.
Right, and we talked about online, which again, as we know, services that perhaps traditionally were never met online or virtually are going to that place. You have your website and folks can find you here, but folks can also find you on Facebook and on Instagram. How about the fact that therapy is going there, is going through these platforms? How are folks feeling about that? And I know you've done that with your business, so how's that going?
So far it's been going great. I think that there are mixed feelings around that.
Okay.
Some people really prefer to have that one-on-one connection in an office setting. Right. And others, let's say the therapist moves to a different state and becomes licensed in a different state while still being licensed in the state that they started therapy with them. They want to stay connected to their therapist because a therapeutic relationship is a very personal relationship, and people have done a lot of work to unfold their trauma and to share with us, some of the most intimate parts of their life. And so in staying committed to them, when we move, the option is to also, provide online therapy for them. And then the other part of that is just connecting with the online community and always just normalizing conversations around mental health care.
So do you think there is that hesitation? Is there any type of privacy or confidentiality that perhaps from my standpoint, if perhaps you're giving me therapy, is that where, do you think folks think that way as well, or is it just more so of being here?
So it is the responsibility definitely of the therapist to ensure that there is privacy and that they're acting out of a place of an ethical stance. So for instance, the platforms that I use, I have to ensure that they're HIPAA compliant so that it would be no different if they were to see me in an office and no one can access their PHI or any personal.
Good to know, and I'm sure that gives folks some comfort that we can maximize all the platforms we use to engage with our friends and family, and that therapists like you can still be there for them online. Tell us a little bit more, though, about how you got into your business. When we talked, I know you shared some of your own trauma, as you mentioned earlier, and that there was a personal place that really compelled you to make this type of career move that made you fit with this career type. If you can explain.
Sure. So just in general, in my own personal life, having been a survivor of sexual assault, of emotional abuse, of all those different factors, and seeing myself sort of emerge even from those places into like a place of just abundance and happiness and balance. I wanted to give that to other people, especially people of my community who I know for so long have been told to kind of remain strong. I strongly believe that a part of strength is talking about what hurts and also peeling back the layers to heal. And so in my private practice, I ensure that, you know, I have those really deep and real conversations with them and sort of create a safe space for them to open up while reminding them that they're still maintaining their level of strength in that.
That's awesome, and that's very powerful. And we're going to get into that too, because we see that in the African American community especially. We have problems sometimes, or hesitancies, to really address mental health and those things that really keep us well with our emotional being, our social being, our mental being. And so it's so awesome that we have someone like yourself, a Black female, a doctor, an LMFT, that is really for and understands perhaps how to work with, especially a community that has some hesitancies with attacking that head on, as you do. You have a great journey so far. Your practice has been open for a couple of years now. You have some experience working in Florida and now Connecticut. How has that been?
It's been a nice transition. What I did to stay connected to Florida was I maintained some of my clients out there. And so I still meet with them consistently online. But I also made some great connections out there. I've networked with some amazing people in the field. And so I'm always in communication with them and seeing how I can sort of bridge the gap, maybe someday between Connecticut and Florida in terms of mental health care. And it's been a nice, journey to come back home, because I think that it's also important not only that we go out, and obtain these gifts, but that we bring them back to the village that raised us. And I was born and raised in Hartford and Windsor, so
awesome. And so we're happy to have you back and being able to just showcase you. As we say, we have hidden gems in Connecticut, and folks need to know that a solid therapist like you, empathetic and who helps folks heal with various life events, is right here in Connecticut for them. So when we come back, what we want to do is talk a little bit more about what it means to be an LMFT, and also really go after what we were hinting at earlier in our conversation, is around therapy and how to think about it in a way that really can help our African American and minority community. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Joshua Fee. I'm a member of Hartford Community Zacchaeus Youth Leadership Academy and the Vice President of the NAACP Greater Hartford Youth Council. For the past 27 weeks, we have been examining the intersection between education, poverty, violence, and trauma, and coming up with program and policy recommendations to improve in these areas. I serve on the Violence and Trauma Work Group, and we recommend the following. Support hospital-linked violence prevention program. This hospital and law enforcement partnership needs to be fully supported with resources to assist victims of violent crimes. for boot the Governor's Commission on Youth and Urban Violence to examine the root causes of violence and develop effective policies for the state of Connecticut and its cities, increase job opportunities for young people and adults to reduce poverty and improve their standard of living. Thank you for your time, and I hope you can support our recommendations.
Hello and welcome back to the Black Business Alliance show featuring today Dr. Danielle Moye in our theme, Healing Truth. One of the aspects of therapy and to understand what's needed, as you talked about earlier, is actually just recognizing what it is, what you do. A lot of folks have don't have that full understanding in depth. We have a video for you today that we want to share so folks can really understand exactly what it is you do and have a good idea of how to think about coming to someone like yourself.
Marriage and family therapy is an approach to therapy whereby relationships are privileged. So whether you're an individual, a couple, or a family, whatever's brought you into the office will be looked at in the context of your relationship.
It's such a vulnerable thing when people let you into their lives. These are the things that I'm most worried about. These are the things that I'm most scared about. These are the things that I don't let other people see. It's really an incredible feeling for somebody to let you in on that process and to get to be a partner in that process.
We see things such as health, illness, loss, trauma, and personal experiences in the context of relationships.
If a client comes in and they have depression, how does my depression affect the way that I'm communicating with my family, with friends, with a significant other, and how does their support help me deal and to cope with some of the different problems that I have?
The typical way that treatment works is people come in, they're struggling with some sort of problem. We take a look at that in terms of what relationships are informing that situation. In understanding the context, it then gives us an idea of what could change in terms of how they're trying to solve the problem that might make it possible for it to resolve effortlessly.
The holistic approach is beneficial because to me it's an act of radical hospitality. Someone comes in and they're going to share something that's often deeply personal, and maybe they haven't told anybody about it before.
It isn't uncommon for me to work with individuals. Certainly I work with a lot of couples, I work with a lot of families. I think one of the beauties of marriage and family therapy is that we can also think about families that extend beyond those that are in our home. We think about our work families. I work a lot with providers and their own self-care.
I am, as part of my education and my training, trained in a number of the different diagnoses, things like depression, anxiety.
I think that's the difference between marriage and family therapy and other kinds of therapists, is that we're always conscious of who's in your life, who's not in the room.
When people call us as marriage and family therapists, they realize that whatever it is that they're facing, that they do not and cannot face it alone.
Even if we're working with an individual, we're thinking about that person in context. How does their situation, how does their circumstance, how does their suffering make sense in terms of what's been happening historically? And then understanding the contextual complexity of that, we look for how to introduce some kind of difference in that so that people aren't trying to continue making efforts that aren't helpful.
We live, I think, in an individualistic society, and in so many different ways we're isolated. But if we connect everybody back into relationships, I think that that really sustains the individual to grow and to develop and to achieve their highest potential.
Marriage.
So that video was great overview of exactly what you do and the wide range of issues and concerns that you can help heal folks. And some of this videos like this, that's all under the umbrella of marketing. It's one of the things that I really loved seeing about your business is that your private practice is all over the place. You really maximize your marketing, starting with, actually, you have a brand statement. If you could talk to us about that.
So my brand is really focused around building harmony and balance in people's lives, and I try to build that consistency throughout my marketing, whether it's through the pictures, the colors that I use. I believe in awakening strengths and achieving solutions, so that's my tagline for Harmony Cove Therapy, because I really do believe that a lot of people have everything that they need within them. Right. It's just a matter of helping them access those things.
That's awesome.
And so through therapy, we get to that place together.
Right, and some of the websites and platforms that you use, very dynamic, a very strong representation of your business and touching folks. One of the websites that I saw, if you can help our viewers understand, it's called Motivo, M-O-T-I-V-O, Motivo. Am I saying that right?
Motivo.
Motivo, okay. What does that website do for you, and how do you leverage it?
So Motivo was started by an LMFT who really wanted to see our field grow. MFTs have not been around as long as psychologists and social workers, and so we kind of have to make a name for ourselves.
That's right.
And so she created this website so that as people are beginning to matriculate out of their programs, they're also being sort of connected to supervisors so that they can go right into licensure after graduation.
Oh, awesome.
So it's sort of like, it's both. It's another stream of income and also a way for me to mentor young MFTs in the field and bring them over into the other side.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you have other listings. There was Open Path Psychotherapy Collective, and I saw there was a bunch of LMFTs there, a Psychology Today listing. With how savvy you've been, really immersing yourself and having a strong online brand presence, if you could talk a little bit from that entrepreneurial hat, what is that doing for you? How is that helping your business?
So it definitely sort of streamlines and helps me get my ideal clients, the people who I want to connect with through the words on my website, the people that I want to captivate, and those who I feel are connected to me by sort of reading through what my journey has been like and saying, oh, okay, well, maybe she'll understand where I'm coming from.
That's great.
And so I feel like those platforms have really provided a space for me to kind of be myself, put myself out there, and see who's willing to work with me in the therapeutic relationship.
That's awesome. And it just spreads you because, again, we use social media, we use the web to find everything that we need. And so why not find an LMFT like yourself? One of the other ways that I noticed that you also very well, spread out is you do conferences. I know recently you were in Hawaii, correct? What was that like?
That was an exciting experience. I focused on empowering Black male youth. I think it's very important that when one of us when one of us of color gets into a certain space that's usually sometimes only reserved for a few, that we should sort of take up space in those areas and really be that voice for our people. And so I feel that because I work in a predominantly white field, it's very important for me to put out, positive narratives about our youth and positive narratives about our families and start to switch some of the narrow narratives that have been put out.
And you've recently connected with another pretty well-known therapist. Her name is Dr. Joy. You connected with her.
I connected with her about a weekend ago, but I had been connected with her online because she's been really leading the field forward. Just in terms of creating an online directory. So aside from Psychology Today, she created Therapy for Black Girls, which is a directory for Black women to go on there, or Black individuals, couples, to go on there and find a therapist that looks and talks like them.
That's awesome. And can you give us the website again?
Yes, therapyforblackgirls.com.
Awesome. And that's where we want to go next with this conversation, because it's one thing, of course, we get really excited to see folks that are doing things in fields traditionally not where we see ourselves reflected, but also to really tackle it. It kind of helps to bridge the gap, but brings it front and center into our community, which we so need. And when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about even some of that work and mentorship you've received from Dr. Joy, but really how you envision and your goals for Harmony Cove in the African American community, and what we need to really talk about when we talk about really keeping well our mental health, so that we can thrive on all aspects. We'll be right back. Today we have in our theme today with Healing Truth, Dr. Danielle Moye, who really encompasses the theme Healing Truth. Thank you again for being here with us. One of the things with therapy that we addressed a little bit earlier, but want to get into a little bit more, is around how the African American community really needs to think more positively and maybe proactively about mental health. Can you talk about your experience and ultimately, which is part of your vision and drive for Harmony Cove?
So a part of my vision is really starting to eventually normalize this conversation around bringing both our faith and our mental health into the same level of importance. I grew up in a very strict Christian home, and so I know that a lot of times we were expected to either go to the pastors for a lot of strength or our church community. But as we begin to move forward and we see the images portrayed in the media of, you know, police brutality and how that affects us and our psyche, the residual effects of racial trauma and sort of how that impacts the Black family, including parents and their level of anxiety around raising Black boys and girls in today's society, I really saw a need to sort of normalize this conversation around having both that faith-based and a healthy mental health status in your life. And so that's sort of my goal by bringing Harmony Cove together. You'll even notice in my vision and culture on the website, I talk about this idea of spirituality and bringing that together with balance, harmony, and mental health.
That's awesome. And so how should we start pivoting? How should we be a lot more comfortable with coming to someone like yourself? You know, nothing wrong, of course, with going to our pastors. They are spiritual and shepherds of God, and these men and women are great professionals and counselors in their own right. But with your professional background and experience and being trained in this field, how do folks think a little bit more to Dr. Danielle Moye as a solution for those types of traumas that they're experiencing?
So I think the first thing is sort of scoping out what it is that you desire out of a therapist. Is it important for you to have a therapist who is kind of aligned with your worldview, aligned with your religion, your spirituality? And so I think it's very important, just like we interview others, that for them to sort of interview and go around and see if a therapist is a good fit for them. I also think it's important to have community events or workshops where people can sort of come together and have like sort of a safe space before deciding to fully commit to therapy. One of the things that I did in Florida was I created a space called the Voice Space, where people just kind of came and talked about the impact of, you know, community violence, of racial trauma, and just different things that were coming up for them. And then from there, they could be curious about maybe exploring a relationship in individual therapy or couples or families therapy.
What would be a watch out that you would tell folks, especially minority community, in how we think about things from day to day, incidences or events that you know have perhaps prevented somebody from getting some of the needs met and concerns addressed, what should we think about, or what should we watch out for, so that we know to really take this, what's a positive and the right step for our mental health and emotional health?
I think it's important to pay attention to your body, to sort of like just your overall response to things around you. If you feel that you are not being yourself, or you're starting to pull back from things that you used to do, maybe that might be a great time to reach out for help. Okay. If you're noticing like shifts in different relationships, and just anything that's sort of switching up the way that you respond to the world around you, the people around you, that might be an opportunity for you to kind of reach out for help or open up to talking about what's happening.
How is the experience with those individuals or families who work with you? Are they seeing you for a set period of time? How do they work with you?
So for me, because it's private practice, it's a little bit different from like an agency. So in an agency, sometimes when insurance panels want you to set aside a certain amount of time, maybe 6 months or something, to work with a client, it might look a little different from if someone is just kind of coming in and they've decided, hey, this is a therapist that I would really like to have in my life. They can come see me one time a month. They can come see me every other week. It's really designed to meet them where they're at in their life, and to kind of just align with their lifestyle, their work schedule, and things like that. So I try and be flexible and honor.
But they can come to you through their insurance, though, and that's really good to know, because sometimes that is the option for folks, but then in a private way as well. As an entrepreneur, though, in growing your practice, especially because you have a heavy online presence, what are some of the things that you have experienced as an entrepreneur that have helped you been successful?
I think for me, it's really watching my colleagues in the field. I strongly believe that, you know, we should have sometimes more of a collaborative than, you know, competitive approach to things. And so I really appreciate having those people in my life who don't mind sharing that information, or who don't mind having me sort of, you know, look at the way that they're marketing themselves and kind of share ideas back and forth, because, you know, it's not like when we're in school we're being taught these things, so we kind of have to learn on our own.
And you had mentioned too, one of the things that folks have found different about you is your craftsmanship and how you are a master of your craft. You're a doctor, you're an LMFT, and you found that successful entrepreneurs, you talked about how they can be unique and they can sell that unique proposition, that unique value proposition through licensure and through really going after being an expert.
I really believe that it's important for a therapist or any entrepreneur in the helping field to stay up to date on the most recent research and trainings. So that's why I position myself, whether that's at a conference or a training or a workshop. It's also required under our licensure that we keep our CEUs up every year. So about 15 hours of like going to classes and making sure we're up to date on things.
That's right.
So that we can serve our clients better.
Yeah, and the other thing that I really like that you talked about is you've learned to really put yourself out there. Many times we entrepreneurs, we may start a business, but we are kind of behind our product and service and don't realize, like you've done so well, is put yourself right there on the website so folks can meet you online as if they know you, right?
Yes, and that's very important. I remember at first I kind of put my quotes out there and everything, but then it was like, no, you really want people to connect with you and put a face to sort of the name of the business. And so that's when I sort of shifted up my approach and put myself out there more.
That's right, because at the beginning, that is who they are going to connect with first. They're not going to necessarily connect with Harmony Cove and that name. That's not what's going to ring a bell. They're going to know Dr. Danielle Moye. We always ask everyone for the show to leave a valuable pearl of wisdom, if you will, but something that perhaps they don't see on the website, perhaps they don't even hear it yet from this interview. What parting words would you leave with, especially our business owners, our entrepreneurs that are watching today?
I would say just to honestly be yourself. You can never go wrong with being yourself. People in this world will connect better with you when you're just authentic. Because behind closed doors, you know, when you bring them into your business, they'll really have an idea of, just feeling aligned with you and the work that you do.
Awesome. How can folks find you online, if you can share that?
Sure. So you can find me on Psychology Today if you look for Dani Moye, or Therapy for Black Girls. You can also go directly to my website, harmonycovetherapy.com.
And can they call you?
They can.
And what would that be?
754-307-4045.
Oh boy, can you say that one more time for us? You spit that pretty fast.
754-307-4045.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you again. I think you have powerful words for folks that need to really consider their mental health and their being of it, and how they can get to their healing truth as well through the services and the counsel that you provide. If you want to connect with more businesses and business owners like Dr. Danielle Moye, connect with us through the Black Business Alliance at www.bbusinessalliance.org. Coming up for the BBA tomorrow, we will be in New Haven. We're going to have what we're calling a holiday soiree. We're going to talk about how to put together a fantastic elevator pitch and value proposition. Will be what we'll be sharing for our professional development segment of the event. And we're really going to be networking and fellowshipping with local New Haven businesses and from wherever you come from. So again, thank you for joining the Black Business Alliance show today, where we featured Dr. Danielle Moye from Harmony Cove Therapy. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you soon.